I didn't see it coming. That's the part that still gets me even now. I was sitting at my desk on a Tuesday afternoon, halfway through a tuna sandwich I'd been meaning to eat since noon, when my phone lit up with my brother's name. I almost didn't answer. I had a report due at 4 and my inbox was a disaster, but something made me pick up. Call it instinct. Call it the last remnant of the sister I used to be before I learned better. "Hey," I said. Mouth still half full. "Hey." His voice had that particular flatness it gets when he's about to ask me for something or deliver bad news. After 29 years, I know all his tones. "So Mom and Dad are doing the anniversary trip in June. Big one. 35 years. I sat up straighter. I knew about the trip. I'd been the one who suggested Savannah, Georgia, the one who found the rental house with the wraparound porch 3 blocks from the waterfront, the one who'd started a group chat in January to organize it. I'd sent the link to my parents. I'd budgeted my own PTO around it. "Yeah," I said. "I was thinking I could drive down from Charlotte or we could all fly in together from—" "That's the thing," my brother said. "Claire doesn't think it's a good idea for you to come." I stopped chewing. "What?" She said it's going to be stressful enough with the kids, and you two don't exactly get along, and she doesn't want the whole trip to turn into a thing. Claire. My sister-in-law. Married to my brother for 4 years. Never worked a full-time job. 2 kids, under 5, that my parents babysit 4 days a week. Living in the house my parents co-signed the mortgage on because their credit wasn't good enough on their own. The house I'd been sending $1,800 a month toward for the past 2 years because my parents asked me to help, and because I thought that's what family did. I put my sandwich down very carefully, like it might shatter. "She doesn't think it's a good idea," I repeated. "Look, it's not my call. It's Mom and Dad's anniversary trip, Brian." Silence. "I know. And they're okay with this." More silence. Longer this time. The kind that answers the question without saying a word. I don't remember the rest of that conversation. I remember hanging up. I remember staring at the wall of my office for a long time, at the little succulent I'd brought in to make the space feel less sterile. Someone knocked on my door and I said I was on a call, which was a lie, but it was the only thing I could think to say that would make another human being go away. Here's what you need to understand about my family. I'm the oldest. 31 years old, working in supply chain management for a mid-sized logistics company in Charlotte, North Carolina. Good salary. Good benefits. I've been financially stable since I was 26, which, in my family, meant I became the financial solution for every problem that came up after that. My parents are good people. I want to be clear about that. They worked hard. My dad drove a delivery truck for 20 years. My mom did medical billing from home after my brother was born and never really went back to full-time work. They did the best they could. They raised us with a sense of loyalty to each other that I genuinely believed in for a long time. But they hit their late 50s with not much saved, a mortgage that had gotten away from them, and a son who'd made some choices, married young, kids young, no real career, a lot of moving back and forth between jobs that never stuck. And somewhere along the way, without anyone ever sitting me down and asking, I became the one who covered the gaps. It started small. Groceries when they were short 1 month. A car repair for my dad. My mom's dental work that insurance didn't cover. I didn't mind. I was doing well. It felt like the right thing to do. Then Ryan and Claire needed help with the down payment on the house. My parents asked me if I could pitch in. I gave them $12,000. That was 3 years ago. Then the mortgage got tight because Ryan's hours got cut at work. My mom called me, voice low, embarrassed, but not embarrassed enough to not ask. Could I help out just for a few months? Just until things stabilized? Of course, I said. That was 2 years ago. The $1,800 every month had never stopped. It had become as automatic as my own rent. I also covered my mom's car insurance, $214 a month. I'd paid for my nephew's preschool for 1 semester when Claire said they couldn't make it work, which was $480. I'd bought my parents a new refrigerator last Thanksgiving because theirs broke and they couldn't afford to replace it. I'm not telling you this to make myself sound generous. I'm telling you so you understand what I was handing over to a family that then decided I wasn't welcome at their vacation. I called my mother that same night. She answered on the second ring, warm and normal, asking how work was, whether I'd eaten enough that day. I let her go through the motions, then I said, "Mom, Ryan told me about the trip." The warmth didn't exactly drain from her voice. It shifted, like a cloud moving in front of the sun. The light's still there, but something changed. "Sweetheart, you know how Claire gets overwhelmed. It's your anniversary trip, Mom." I know, but we really just want it to be peaceful, and you and Claire." "What did I do to Claire?" Pause. "You know how she is. She's sensitive. I need you to tell me what I did, specifically." My mother sighed, the sigh of a woman who had been sighing her way out of difficult conversations for 30 years. "She just feels like you judge her. The way you look at her sometimes, the way I look at her. She's not comfortable, and we want everyone to be comfortable." "And me? Am I not everyone?" Another sigh. "You're different, honey. You're stronger. You can handle this." I sat with that for a moment. You're stronger. You can handle this. I sat with that for a moment. You can handle this. Meaning, your feelings matter less. Meaning, you'll absorb this and keep going because you always do. "Okay, Mom," I said. "I hear you." I said goodnight. I hung up. I opened my laptop. I went to my bank's website, to the recurring transfers page. There was the $1,800 labeled family house. There was the $214 labeled mom car-ins. I stared at both of them for a long time. Then I canceled them both. I didn't feel as good as I expected to. I mostly just felt tired. I didn't tell anyone what I'd done. I went to work the next day. I finished my report. I went to the gym, came home, made pasta, watched something on Netflix I can't remember now. My phone stayed quiet. Nobody called to check on me. That too was its own kind of answer. 4 days later, my dad called. My dad doesn't usually call. He texts one-word answers and the occasional meme and shows up in person when something is serious. A phone call from my dad meant something had happened. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, kiddo." His voice was careful, measured. "So, your mom mentioned the June trip, and I just wanted to... I don't know. I wanted to hear your voice." I appreciated that he was trying. "I'm okay, Dad. You know it's not personal." I almost laughed. Someone telling me I can't come to my own parents' anniversary trip because my sister-in-law doesn't like the way I look at her is pretty personal, Dad. Claire's going through a hard time. Claire is always going through a hard time, Dad. That's the one constant. Silence. "I know it doesn't seem fair," he said finally. "Does it seem fair to you?" He didn't answer that. He's a good man, but he has never been good at that kind of honesty. "I just hope you won't let this come between us," he said. "As a family, I hope so too, Dad." I said goodbye. I loved him, I did. But I got off the phone and opened my banking app again and I looked at the history of transfers. 2 years worth, month after month. Rows and rows of $1,800. The $12,000 down payment. The dental work. The refrigerator. I added it up. It came to just over $61,000. I sat with that number for a while. $61,000 to a family that could not find a way to tell their daughter-in-law that she didn't get to decide who came on the family trip. $61,000 to people who told me I was stronger and could handle it. I didn't go back to the transfers page. I'd already canceled. There was nothing left to do. The trip happened in June. I know because my mom posted photos on Facebook. The wraparound porch I'd found. The waterfront I'd suggested. Sunsets and seafood dinners, and my 2 nephews in matching striped shirts. My brother tagged my parents. Claire posted a reel with some song I'd never heard over slow-motion video of everyone laughing. I was not in any of the pictures. There was no space where I should have been and wasn't. It looked like a complete family. It looked like I had never existed in the arrangement at all. I looked at those photos for about 90 seconds. Then I muted everyone involved and went back to my Saturday. The first sign that my canceled transfers had been noticed came in July. My mom texted asking if I'd had any issues with my bank because the automatic payments hadn't come through. I read the text. I didn't respond that day. I went for a run, I made coffee. I thought about what I wanted to say and whether I wanted to say anything at all. The next morning I texted back. No bank issues. I canceled them. She called within 4 minutes. What do you mean you canceled them? I mean I logged into my account and I canceled the recurring transfers. But the mortgage, the insurance, I know what I was paying for, Mom. Sweetheart, we depend on that. I know. You can't just, without any warning, you didn't warn me when you decided I wasn't coming on the trip. Silence. A different kind this time. The kind that meant I had landed somewhere real. That's not the same thing, she said. But her voice had gone thin. I think it's pretty much exactly the same thing, I said. You made a decision that affected me without asking. I made a decision that affects you without asking. Now we're even. She started crying. My mother has always been a crier. Not manipulative, just genuinely emotional. Which for most of my life I could not tell apart. I used to rush to fix whatever had made her cry. That morning, I felt her tears at a distance, like I was watching rain through a window. Mom, I have to go to work. We can talk more later. I went to work. 3 days later, Ryan showed up at my apartment. I have to give him credit. He drove 40 minutes from their house, which is the most effort I'd seen him make in years. I opened the door and he was standing there in a wrinkled polo shirt looking like he hadn't slept, and I felt a complicated rush of love and exhaustion that I didn't have words for. Can I come in? I stepped back and let him in. I didn't offer coffee. I sat on my couch, and he sat on the chair across from me, and we looked at each other. Mom's really upset, he said. I know. The mortgage payment's going to be short. I know that too. Is this about the trip? I looked at him. My little brother, who I had taught to ride a bike, who I had covered for when he came home past curfew, who I had written a personal check to so he could buy a ring for a woman, who then decided whether or not I was allowed at family dinners. Ryan, what do you think it's about? He rubbed the back of his neck. I know Claire was out of line. She didn't come alone. Mom and Dad agreed. They were trying to keep the peace with her. Not with me. I kept my voice level. They chose to keep the peace with someone who has never paid a single bill in this family over someone who has been quietly covering everything for 2 years. That's the choice they made, and I'm making mine. He stared at the floor. He looked young suddenly. He looked like the kid he used to be before life got complicated for both of us. I don't know how we're going to make the mortgage, he said quietly. I don't know either, I said. But I think that's something you and Claire need to figure out. He flinched at her name. Is she going to apologize? I asked. Not angry. Genuinely curious. Long pause. I don't know. Okay, I said. Then I don't know what you want from me today. He left 20 minutes later. We hugged at the door, a little stiff, a little sad. I closed the door behind him and stood in my hallway and breathed. The calls escalated after that. My mom called twice a day for 2 weeks. I answered maybe half of those. The conversations went in circles. She missed me. She was worried. The money situation was putting so much pressure on everyone. Didn't they understand how hard things were? I did understand. I had understood for 2 years. Understanding had cost me $61,000. My dad called once more. He was quieter this time, more resigned. He asked me if there was any chance I'd reconsider. I told him there was a chance, if certain things changed. He asked what things. I said that I wanted to be treated like a member of this family, not like a resource that got deployed when convenient and excluded when inconvenient. He said he heard me. He didn't say he agreed. Then things took a turn I hadn't seen coming. I was in a team meeting on a Thursday afternoon when my manager, a steady woman named Patricia, who has run our department for 7 years and does not rattle easily, knocked on the glass of the conference room and gestured for me. I excused myself. There have been some calls, Patricia said, keeping her voice low in the hallway. For you. Personal calls. To the main office line. I felt my stomach drop. Who? A woman. She said she was your mother. And then someone else? She didn't give a name. The second time she called, she asked to speak to your supervisor directly. I thought about Claire. About the look she'd given me at Easter 2 years ago when I gently mentioned that Ryan might want to look into a part-time position somewhere, just to help out, like I had said something violent. What did she say? Patricia looked at me carefully. She said you'd been withholding money from your elderly parents and that we should know what kind of person you are. I heard the words. I processed them. I kept my face very still. Patricia? I'm so sorry. I will handle this. I'm not worried about the company, she said. I'm worried about you. Are you okay? Nobody had asked me that in weeks. I'm working on it, I said. That evening I sat at my kitchen table and I wrote down everything. Every transfer, every payment, every check. I had the bank records. I had the texts where my mom thanked me for the insurance, where my dad told me the mortgage was covered, where Ryan said he didn't know what they'd do without me. I had all of it. I also called my friend Danielle, who had gone to law school before switching careers, and I asked her the difference between harassment and legal harassment. She walked me through it. I asked about cease and desist letters. She told me who to call. I didn't file anything that night, but I organized everything into a folder, on my computer, neatly labeled. Not with anger. With clarity. I texted my mom the next morning. Not a long text. Just enough. What happened at my job cannot happen again. If either of you or Claire contacts my employer again, I will pursue legal action for harassment. I'm not saying this to hurt you, I'm saying it because I need you to understand where the line is. My mother did not call that day. Neither did my brother. Claire texted me 3 days later. 11 words. I didn't mean for things to go this far. I'm sorry. 11 words after 4 years of Easters and Christmases and Thanksgivings where she looked through me. 11 words after a trip I was uninvited from. 11 words after she called my workplace. I looked at those 11 words for a long time. I typed back. Thank you for saying that. I'm not ready to talk yet. But I appreciate it. Because I'm not a monster. And because I knew, even then, that this wasn't really over, that families don't just stop being families, that there would be more Christmases, and probably more phone calls and eventually some version of a new equilibrium. But it wasn't going to be the old one. I was done being the one who holds everything up while pretending she doesn't mind the wait. September came. I took a week of PTO I hadn't used. I drove to Asheville by myself. I rented a small cabin in the mountains, the kind with a porch and a fire pit and no cell service until you walk up to the ridge. I brought books I'd been meaning to read for 2 years. I made coffee every morning in a cabin that had nothing to do with anyone in my family, that I'd chosen and paid for all on my own. On the 3rd day I sat on that porch in the early morning, with fog still in the valley below, and something inside me loosened, not fixed, not finished, but loosened like a knot that had been pulled so tight for so long that you forget your hands can open. My mom texted once that week. Just how are you? I texted back. Good. Taking some time. She sent a heart emoji and didn't push further, which was new and maybe meant something, or maybe just meant she'd run out of angles. I didn't know yet. What I knew was this. The mountains didn't need anything from me. The coffee was hot because I'd made it. The fog was lifting because that's what fog does in the morning. I had 61,000 reasons to be bitter. I was working on finding better reasons to be something else. It was a start. I've thought a lot about what I would do differently, honestly. I think I'd do most of it the same, except I would have stopped sooner. That's the only real regret I carry out of all of it. Not the canceled transfers, not the hard conversations. Just the 2 years I spent telling myself that giving more would eventually make me worth keeping around. Here's what I figured out, not from a book or a therapist or anything like that, just from living through it. The way you let people treat you is a slow accumulation. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to take you for granted. It builds. A small thing here, a skipped thank you there, a moment where they tested a boundary and you didn't hold it, and they filed that information away without even realizing it. And then one day, you're being told you can't come to your own parents' anniversary trip because your sister-in-law finds you inconvenient, And somehow that doesn't feel as shocking as it should, because somewhere inside you already knew. You'd been watching it happen for years. You just kept hoping the next check would change the math. It doesn't. That's the hard truth I had to sit with up in Asheville with the fog in the valley and the coffee going cold in my hands. Money doesn't buy belonging. It buys dependency, which looks like belonging until the moment it doesn't. What I learned about myself through all of this, about Ryan, about Claire, about my parents, is that intelligence without honesty is just a very sophisticated way of lying to yourself. I am a smart person. I managed logistics for a company that moves product across 12 states. I can read a spreadsheet, optimize a supply chain, spot inefficiency from a mile away. And yet, I looked at 2 years of evidence and kept arriving at the wrong conclusion because the right conclusion hurt too much to say out loud. Being honest with yourself takes a different kind of smart. It takes the willingness to look at what's actually in front of you instead of what you wish were there. When Patricia told me that someone had called my workplace to tell her what kind of person I was, something clarified in me that all the canceled transfers hadn't quite reached. That was the moment I stopped negotiating with myself. You can make excuses for people who don't appreciate you. You cannot make excuses for people who try to damage what you've built. I'm not angry at my family anymore. That surprised me more than anything. What I feel now is mostly a clear-eyed kind of sad. For what we were, for what we could have been, for the version of closeness I kept funding even when it wasn't real. Ryan is my brother and I love him in the specific, complicated way you love someone you grew up with. Someone who knows the same house and the same parents and the same small history. That doesn't go away. But love is not the same as access. Love is not the same as unlimited patience. Love is not a blank check. What gets you through something like this? What actually gets you through is not anger, which burns fast and leaves you empty. It's deciding, quietly and without ceremony, that you are worth the same care you've been giving everyone else. Not as a statement. Not to prove anything. Just as a fact you finally stop arguing with. I drove home from Asheville on a Sunday morning with the windows down and the mountains still visible in my rearview mirror, and I felt, for the first time in a long time, like I was driving toward something instead of away from it. That's the only destination worth finding.